Good afternoon, welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlotte and this is Charlotte's Shelves. I have a big reading update for you, and if you are new here, I've been on a book buying ban the last 3 months. I made it through months 1 and 2, and this video is an update to see if I made it through month 3. Toward the end of 2025, my TBR was out of control and I had a good declutter and let some things go, and it was still in the 60s. And I was reaching a point where it was feeling like I was never going to get to the end of my TBR. So I set myself the challenge of, for once in my life, reading everything that is on my physical TBR and starting afresh. This video is the months of February and March, and it's kind of a selection of diary entries really of every time I had that bookish impulse. At the end of the video, I will share if I made it through month 3. And I'm also going to give you a rundown of how far I am through reading my physical TBR. So let's go into this truly bonkers assemblage of clips that I'm about to share, where I filmed myself every time I had a bookish impulse. And I confess a lot of bookish desires and sins along the way. So please like, comment and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. Oh, hello. It is my first reading update for February on my book ban, and I was in France for the week, and I did look in 2 gorgeous little French bookshops. Obviously can't read much French, but still had a browse. Definitely noticed, and you're probably going to say this is because you were in France and you couldn't really read the books, but I did not feel that pull to browse. Like, even when I was on holiday in other countries abroad, I would always still have a good old browse, and I had lost that edge of wanting to have a dig through. So I think my brain has finally processed and accepted we're not buying any new books until we finish, what's the line? Finish our TBR. That was a tiny shift in mindset that I just wanted to share with you. There was a part of me, I think, previously when I've been abroad as well, I've gone, oh, I wonder if they have any like alternative covers or alternative dust jacket artworks or that sort of thing, and I just didn't have that impulse. So that was really, really nice. Good afternoon. It is Thursday the 5th of February. Excuse my laundry and my socks. I just wanted to hop on quickly. I had a brief impulse to buy a book. That's why I'm here sharing it with you. I was on Storygraph or somewhere, and I was looking up another book that I was just adding to my Storygraph. I didn't want to buy it, it was just one for the future. And I saw in one of the recommendations another book akin to this. It was kind of to do with nature, the natural world, and it was a book to do with that. And I clicked on it and I went, oh, and I saw it was a small novella type work, and it was only about 200 pages, and my brain went, 200 pages, we could grab that, maybe I'll look on Kindle for it. And I started thinking, that's the kind of book that we could finish in a day or so. That'd be quite nice. And it's interested in, the other book I want to read is about 400 pages, and this is kind of around that subject matter that I'm interested in learning about. We could just grab it. And then I went, nope, and I closed the tab, and I now cannot even remember the name of the book that I was thinking of buying on Kindle. I know what my original book was, and I still want that. I'm not going to buy it, obviously, but that's quite revealing in that in that moment I felt that pull, like, oh yeah, let's get that. And I opened up a tab to go look on Kindle store, and then I just went, I had felt like after the initial drying out process in January that I was slightly over some of the more thorny impulses and wishes, and that one taught me maybe not quite, but it did show me that in the space of 5 or 6 weeks, a shift is happening because we're catching that pull, that emotion. Maybe if I'm exercising that muscle in terms of frugality and impulsivity, that will also be strengthened across other areas of my life. Good afternoon, it is the 6th of February. The hair is herring, as always. I had a quick little book twinge that I wanted to share with you. I didn't buy it, I didn't order it. I've just put it straight on my Storygraph. I was watching a YouTube video, and the video was looking at the Goodreads awards, and I saw under the category of memoir a book that I want to read. It's called Careless People, A Cautionary Tale of Power, Greed and Lost Idealism by Sarah Wynne Williams. And I saw that name and I was thinking, where do I know that from? And I remembered she had given testimony or evidence to, I think it's to Congress, kind of acting as a whistleblower for how Facebook, but also other social media apps, there's a lot of unkind things, let's say, that they do with our personal data and how they use their platform in perhaps not good ways, is what I'm going to say. Go check that book out if you're interested. It's probably not a surprise to a lot of people that these big institutions, social media giants, are not very good people, and also don't treat their staff very well, but also don't have very good or kind ways of treating their customer or user client base. Good evening, it is February the 8th. I was at a family do today and I was a little bit book triggered, or book buying triggered, because my nanny asked me to help her with her Kindle. She was having an issue with Kindle store not loading or something. So I was looking at that for her and she was like, right, now I want to buy this book. How do I do that again? I was showing her how to search for a specific author and just like how to navigate it. And I could see there were some offers of like Kindle Unlimited or something else. And I saw this thriller just while she was scrolling through, because she loves to read thrillers. And I saw one and I was like, what's that? And I was like, no, carry on. It was almost like I was getting a tiny bit of FOMO watching her purchase like 4 or 5 books while she was just sorting her Kindle out. And then I said to myself, like, you have even more books on your Kindle than you do your physical TBR. But I think what was triggering me was just the act of being able to have a browse and to have a little shop. And it made me want to go look at Kindle Store on my phone. Just thought I would share that with you because I was not expecting to feel that way at all. It felt very random and transparent with you. So not feeling like I want to buy a specific book, but was not expecting to feel book itchy in that particular way. Good evening, it is Friday 13th. I had 2 little book itches in one evening. I was doing a bit of surfing while I was just chilling, and there's a therapist whose works I like, and she has a new book coming out, which I didn't realise. I saw her doing some promotional work for it on Instagram. I think it's to do with like codependency in relationships, and I'm not sure it's necessarily for me, but I love her therapeutic practices and her approaches. So I think even if it's not an issue that I think I struggle with, I'd probably still read the book, but that will go on my story graph to wait for a little bit. And then the other book, there's an influencer I like who's kind of like a sort of crunchy homeschooling farmer, lives in this beautiful part of America, Jill Winger, but she's also an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, and she recommended this book. She put a quote from it on her stories. And is it Brianna Wiest? Or I always want to say it's West, but it's not. It's W-I-E-S-T. But she's written a couple of famous kind of self-improvement books. I think her most famous one is The Mountain Is You. Good afternoon. Excuse me in my dressing robe. It's really chilly today. I've discovered a new website which made me want to buy books, which is bad. It is called, and you probably already know this if you're a bookish person, it's called bookshop.org, but basically it amalgamates all small independent bookshops, and it means that the books you purchase go to independent bookshops rather than Amazon. Or when I was using this site, I instantly went, oh gosh, I want to give them my money. I really love the ethics of this, and they are also certified B Corp, which means they are very planet friendly. But it's something that I'm increasingly looking for from shops. You can also look and find your nearest independent bookshop, and one has recently opened up near me a couple of towns over, and it is so cute. I want to go there like this weekend. I want to go get a little coffee and go do some book shopping. Not that I wanted a specific book, but I just wanted to go. Obviously we are on our book buying ban, so that was just a little itch, a little trigger. I have saved the website because I'm going to use it going forward as well. It also allows you to make wish lists, which was something when I stopped using Amazon, I was wondering how I would find a way around that, because mostly what I do ask for gifts are wish lists, and I didn't want to direct my family and friends towards spending money on Amazon either way, but also for book lovers. So I thought I'd also share that with you if you're also looking for a way to support independent bookshops. Good evening. I just got back from book group and it was really good, but I have come away with a book that I really want. So we were talking about short fiction tonight and sharing recommendations and things after we discussed our book. And the book that the leader recommended, the guy in charge, he recommended a collection of short stories. The Field by Robert C. Taylor.
It's described as a poignant novel composed of linked short stories where the deceased residents of a small town narrate their life stories from a local graveyard. It explores themes of memory, regret, love, and the mundane, ultimately painting a collective picture of life's meaning. And he said, so it's almost like, not interviews, but as you move across the cemetery, you have people from different times and periods, and they died in different ways, and they have different stories or share different memories about how they came to be situated in this graveyard. And he said some are merely a couple of lines, some are whole lifespans, but he said they were just really beautiful little vignettes and snippets of life. And I thought, oh my god, that sounds great. I'm gonna put it on the list. I'm not gonna buy it. Good evening, guys. The 25th of February. I had a quick bookish update for a book I really wanted. I was watching a new to me booktuber called, I think she's called Introverted Reader 4432 book unboxing vid, and it had a book of Tim Burton, and it was, I think it's the script of The Night Before Christmas, some essays in it as well, but also artwork and storyboarding, photographs and all that kind of stuff, and it looked phenomenal. And it had lots of like early Nightmare artwork and designs and like actors behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, and it's one of my all-time favourite films. I'm obsessed with it, and this hasn't been on my radar at all. I've got a couple of other books on Tim Burton, but not this one. And I was like, right, I'm just gonna go pop it on my Storygraph and in my wish list. It looks so good. It's triggered my book buying ban, obviously, which is why I'm here talking to you. I hope you can hear me okay. I've just realised my hand is kind of over the side of my phone, and I've got my fan on because it's bedtime. It's the 1st of March and I have a book buying ban reading update for you. I watch a lot of booktube and book related content, and there was a book that I put on my 2026 top 20 books or so that I want to read this year, and it's just been nominated for quite a few awards, and I've seen a number of booktubers now reading it, and it's really annoying me because I want to read it and I want to buy it, and it is The Wax Child and I really want it. I'm feeling FOMO at the moment, and I know that in another 4 months time, when I've got through my TBR, the book will still exist. It's not going anywhere, it's just that at the moment there's quite a lot of buzz around this particular book. Good evening, it is Friday the 7th of March and I have a book buying update for you. I have not bought any books, but I had a lot of bookish temptation today. My goodness, I had to buy a book for a friend, and I went into my favourite secondhand bookshop and they didn't have a copy, so I was just looking. A nice display of secondhand books about Austen and kind of around her, and there was a book called Happily Ever After, which was a book specifically about Pride and Prejudice, and I think the creation of that work, and I imagine it's more Jane Austen history, maybe a little bit about the aftermath of like the influence of Pride and Prejudice, I'm not sure. I had the quickest glance, and also it was a really nice like hardback edition. I don't think it was like literary theory and criticism, but it looked to be quite an academic work, I think, and it was only £2. Loads of these books were on sale in this really nice display. And then I saw another book that was like selected writings or journals or letters of Austen. I don't have any of those at all. I've been having an itch the last week or so, and it's really intense at the moment because I'm thinking about books that I want to read when I'm through the worst of like what's going on with my PTSD stuff. And I want to read a Stephen King so bad, and I think it's because last week I read a novel that was set in Maine, and if you love King, you know that so many of his novels
are set in Maine or have a very New England aesthetic. And one of the ones I had been really curious about reading and had been avoiding for a while was Misery, because I've heard that it's quite brutal. But it makes me want to read it so much. And I still haven't read Cujo, which is another classic, and it had been on my heart and mind to reread Salem's Lot, because when I was very young, that was the first Stephen King novel I'd ever read, and I was kind of feeling like I want to revisit it because I haven't reread it since I was little, I don't think. So that was on my mind as well. I was really fancying rereading Pet Sematary. That was another early one. I was just in the mood for maybe revisiting some of the ones I've already read, because I thought maybe that would be as triggering for my PTSD, because I already know the plot points or the characters. I've just been really itching to read some good horror. Good afternoon, it is the 17th of March and I had a small bookish impulse that I just wanted to share with you. I have been really craving to read the third volume of the Martha Wells Murderbot series. I'd read one, thought it was good, 4-star. Read number 2, it was just okay, but I was like, I really want to read more of this. And knowing that there are 8 of them in the series, they are probably the books that I'm most looking forward to picking up when I finish this buying. I was also given a book voucher today from a family friend for doing some acts of service for them as such, and they came around with a thank you card and a book voucher, and instantly I went to the place of, what am I going to buy? And I was like, no, you have to sit and hold this, like, you can't spend it right now obviously. And my brain had this little tizzy of panic going, what if the voucher runs out? And I was like, what? So psychologically that was a curious instant of like, what am I going to buy, and then how long have I got until I spend it, kind of thing. And I just had to say to myself, like, this will last, I'll check the date on it, but most of the vouchers are like, what, 6 months to a year. By then I'll hopefully be done with my book buying ban. Good evening, it is Friday? No, it's only Tuesday, the 24th of March. I had a bookish temptation, and this one has been in the background of my mind for a while. I watched this obscenely trashy reality TV show called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that I am very obsessed with. I'm one of the cast members on it, wrote a book I think in the last year, and I just wanted to read it. It's meant to be kind of motivational self-help. She's been through a lot in her life, and she says that she wrote this book to help and inspire other women, to help give them motivation and to help people follow their dreams, something cheesy a bit like that. And the author is called Macy Neely. Just a book I'm curious to read. Don't judge me. If you watch that show, let me know in the comments so we can talk about it, because I only have, I think, one other friend that watches it, and I'm sure they're sick of me and my voice notes as we talk back and forth about each episode. Good afternoon. I'm just going to show you where we are on our physical TBR and how much progress we have made, because I don't know if I showed you in my last video. So I'm going to show you all of my TBR, which now fits on my bedside table, and how many books are left on it. This is my TBR, or what's left of it. Isn't that incredible? I'm so excited. Nearly there. Let's count how many we have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13! Oh my goodness. 13 books is so exciting, because at the start of the year, I think it was in the 40s, and I had a declutter, which has helped with the whole process. I will admit it, I haven't read like nearly 40 books in 2 months or 3 months. In March, I only read books from my TBR, no Kindle, no library. And I think I was on the 4 or 5 that I got off the stack. So I'm feeling good about getting through 13 in another 3 months or so. I think it sucks that I'm in a reading slump at the moment, because a good average for me is anywhere between sort of 7 to 8 books a month. And I'm lucky if I hit 4 at the moment. So hopefully into April, even if I get another 4 off the list, that is 4 more on our journey. So fingers crossed my reading slump starts to shift, and also I'm away for a week on holiday coming up. So hopefully in that week I might be able to read like a couple of books. Hello, it is nearly the end of March as I am filming this, and this is my reading update for the month. At the time of recording, I have made it through my 3rd month of my book buying ban. It feels really good. It might seem silly, but I have never gone this long in my entire life without buying books. So I'm going to give you a rundown of some of the changes that I made in the last couple of months that have helped me stick to this goal. The first thing that I would say is it is getting even easier to resist the itches and the impulses. And you might think that's not true because I've shared probably 20 odd clips of you in the video of times I wanted to buy books, but every time I want to buy them, that urge comes and goes, and it's happening much more smoother and faster. So there are less emotional disruptions to my mental health or to my physical self because I'm not getting that rush as high, and I'm not getting that low when I deny myself books anymore. I have also made strides with the consumption, like the booktube, BookTok accounts and videos that I follow. So I've started selecting not interested when YouTube suggests for me big book hauls, like giant book hauls, massive clickbaity, hundreds of books stacked high kind of thing. And I've also decided to unfollow some people who every month are doing book buying hauls. And there are people I know that make book related content that is not just shopping. They make really interesting videos that engage with like literary debate, or they take you on other bookish adventures. And there were just a few channels that I followed that really just seem to upload haul videos back to back to back to back every single month, supporting channels that kind of promote that consumerism. Because if you're buying 30 odd books a month, how many of those are you actually reading? It just didn't seem to be the type of content that matched where I am in life right now and what my goals and aspirations are in terms of buying, consumerism and book hoarding. Another thing that I probably said in month one's wrap up was that I found it really useful to still keep tracking every book that I kind of wanted. And at the end of the 6 months, I'm going to do a big reading wrap up where I actually go through that list and work out kind of the percentage of books that I actually still want to read, I would still buy, which I'm very on the fence about, and which I'm just like, that was such an impulse, I'm so glad I didn't spend the money. And I think I'd also like to do a tally to try and work out how much money I potentially could have spent. Because I'm a bit of a geek, I just kind of want to look at what those numbers are and see if that kind of evidence helps support me outside of the book buying ban, to remember like how much money I could have probably spent on books versus how much I should have, or how much I could have saved. Final thing that I have changed is using the library. When I first went on my book buying ban, I wanted to encourage myself to use the library more. My intent to get through my physical TBR and my desire to do it now is at such a peak that I don't want to hire books anymore. And the reason that I'd originally included going to the library was because I felt it would help mix up what was on my TBR. So I was going to use the library as a sort of pressure valve release, just to go look at books. I can go look and browse, and I could take a couple home, I could read them, I could not. Just felt like I wanted to focus on what my original goal was. And I also felt like by months 2 and 3, I didn't need that pressure valve release, if that makes sense. I didn't feel like I needed to go to the library to kind of scratch that itch. If you can hear snoring, I'm so sorry. It is my little friend down here. He is, can you see him? He keeps making little snore noises. But it's not me, it's just Bofi. Hey. So where am I in my TBR? I have made some progress, but for the first time in a really long while, I hit a reading slump. And then in March, I just hit that wall like a sack of shit. I just could not induce myself to read. I didn't want to. I wasn't picking up reading at night time, which is so unlike. A couple of pages before bed is normally so cemented and intrinsic to my nighttime routine. And I was really hoping if I was staying on a 6-7 book month average, I would make it through my TBR in a sort of 6-7 month window. In February, I read 5 books, which I felt was pretty good. The first was Northwards, and I cannot for the life of me remember if I've talked about this on my channel before. I will pop a description of it on the screen. I did enjoy it, but because I'm in a place with my mental health, there were some triggers in this book because it is about the cyclical nature of life and death, and there are some violent deaths in this work. And that is not what I want you to take away about Northwards, because it's so much richer and polyphonic in that sense. It's numbers of different voices and characters and people and animals and critters and things told throughout I think it's about a 300-400 year window. So it's told over the story of one house, one little patch of land, and all the inhabitants and people that come and go. It is a slow, meditative work. It is beautifully written. I think I just read it at the wrong point in life. I gave it a 3.5. It would be one that I would still recommend to other people because it is also structurally, the way that certain pieces and fragments and chapters are done, almost like in vignettes. It's so unique, and I would really recommend it, but my experience of it was probably a 3. I think I gave it a 3.5 because I felt like it was more a me issue for where I am right now. The second book I read, and I don't know, maybe this was kind of what was pushing me into my reading slump a bit, was a book that I despised. And I gave it a 1 star, and I don't give out 1 stars very often at all. And it was a book that I had to read for my reading club, and it was called The Book Forger, The True Story of a Literary Crime That Fooled the World by Joseph Hone. It was so slow paced, it was dry. I don't know how you can make a sort of true crime heist book forgery type story be so uninteresting. I said before I used to work in rare books, so this seemed on paper like it would tick a lot of those boxes for me, and it was wildly uninteresting, and I hated the writing style. And I really don't like to sit and slag off books on my channel because I love being enthusiastic about what I'm reading and sharing really great things. Like, I want to recommend you your next great book, but this, if I could tell people to actively avoid it, that is how much I hated it. The next book I read in February was a solid 5 star, and this is The Nation's Favourites Poems of Love. I reread this every couple of years, and it's just one of my favourite love poetry anthologies. It is full of just sonnets and ballads and villanelles and gorgeous little odes to other people's beloveds. It is perfect for the month of February, obviously for Valentine's, and it's a really good sort of mood read for February too. I've had this copy for years, but it's absolutely trashed. But it's beautiful, it's wonderful to read, and it's not just sort of love lost or grief of a loved one or heartbreak. There are some really uplifting, gorgeous like odes to your beloved, just incredible stuff. I really recommend this one, and it's a sharp contrast to my previous read. Then I read installment number 2 of the sci-fi series The Murderbot Diaries, and this was Artificial Conditions by Martha Wells. This was good. It was not as good as book 1. I think I just gave this a solid 3. The plot felt smaller, there was less action. This felt more like a book that was getting us on to the 3rd or 4th in the series. There's a particular thread or storyline that is going through where Murderbot is trying to find out more about their background and certain events in their life as a security unit, and this felt more like a stepping stone onto something else is what I would say. I would still recommend it because I want you to read the series. I think the series is going to be phenomenal. Book 1 was great. So that was a 3, and it was a good 3. Next, also because it was still Valentine's, I wanted to read something romantic, just as a sort of seasonal vibe, and I went with Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was a bloody delight. I'm not a big romance reader, but I was so surprised with this. My best friend recommended it to me as well. It was so sweet. It was just the right amount. It was the sort of will they, won't they. It had the trope of miscommunication, which I don't love, but there was so much charisma, there was a lot of tension, and in parts it read towards the end almost like a thriller, because there were quite a few like twists, because although it's predominantly about this couple who have broken up, haven't told their friends, they're all staying at this beautiful holiday location in Maine, in this cottage slash mansion that isn't a cottage really, but you start to learn more about the friendships too. And as much as it is a love story about Wynne and Harriet, you also learn about the love between the other couples, their other friends, and it's as much about the love that they have for each other in their friendships as it is about whether these two can move to an amicable place, or whether they get back together, or what the future holds for all of them as a friendship group really. It had so much heart to it that I wasn't expecting, and there are a couple of places in it actually that made me well up. If you're not a massive lover of romance either, this just wasn't irritating to me. Sometimes I find romance really unrealistic or too mawkish or over sentimental, and this was none of that. It felt fresh, and I gave this a solid 4. So those were the 5 books that I read in February. 1, 2, 3, so that's 3 books off my TBR that I made. Then in March I read 1, 2, 3, 4. So far I've read 4, and then I'm halfway through, oh I don't have it to hand. I'm halfway through Carol or the Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. Of the 4 books I read in March, all 4 were off my TBR, which feels really nice, and that's also kind of why I just wanted to stop reading library books and Kindle books, just focus on my TBR. The first book I read in March was this, which is the book Lover's Bucket List. I really enjoyed it. It had far more information in it than I was expecting. So it's a book about literary landmarks, period homes, places to visit, related both to authors and their fictional characters or other fictional worlds and places, and it's wonderful. I think I said in my every book on my TBR video that this is a book that I think would be such a sweet gift for a book lover in your life. I gave this a solid 4. Yeah, I feel good about that.
The next book was a reread that I had had on my TBR for a while because it's a book I've loved since I was probably like 14, 15, and that is by John Grisham. It is The Runaway Jury. This is one of my all-time favourite books by him. It is a legal thriller, courtroom drama. It's a little bit dark and it's very evenly paced. I really love this book and I was curious to see if it was still a 5-star. So I was super happy for this to actually still be a 5. It's a long book. This is about nearly 500 pages, I think, this copy, and it's definitely worth it. It is slower than I think like Pelican Brief or The Partner, but it's worth it. It's so good, and the movie adaptation is actually quite faithful if you do love a good like book to screen adaptation. But read this first. Don't watch the film first. Read this because it's such a slow burn. It's such a slow build, and some of the twists and reveals are that much richer, I think, if you haven't seen the film first. Solid 5. This took me 2 and a bit weeks to read because that was in the midst of my reading slump. Then I read a horror, and if you have been following my channel, you know that I can't normally, I've not been reading horror at the moment because of my PTSD, but my thinking with this was, I'd seen the film so I knew what to expect. It's an older kind of horror, and I don't find classic horror as scary or cerebral sometimes as some more contemporary horrors just because of the age of them, and I had been told by some of my viewers very kindly it was more sinister and spooky. So I thought I would be okay. There was one scene that was actually really fucking triggering that I hadn't factored in, right near the beginning, where there is, can I describe this? I don't want to trigger anyone else. There is one assault scene is all I'm going to say at the beginning, and I completely forgot about it. And other than that, this book was so good. I was really surprised that I liked it so much. I had read Stepford Wives a few years ago and was keen to read more IR11. This is so creepy and sinister. There's a sense of paranoia or something not quite right, but it just feels like largely a domestic drama. You don't know what is going on until like the last third or so. Such a good, creepy, sinister book, exactly as described to me by some of my very kind viewers, and I'm so glad I read it. I gave it a 5. Such a good feeling when you've had a book on your TBR and you've kept it on there and you've kept it on there, and then you finally read it and it's a 5-star. Like, that is the best feeling. It's also a testament to why I'm doing this challenge, to get around to reading the books that I have heard were great and I've bought and they've sat stagnant on the side. And I'm so glad I finally read this. 5 stars. The final book and the most recent one from my TBR is another poetry anthology. This is the Poetry Pharmacy Tried and True Prescriptions for the Heart, Mind and Soul, and I have chatted about this a few times. This I expected to be a 5-star, and it was a 5-star. It is a beautiful collection of poetry. You can see I've tabbed up quite a few that I've really loved. Sometimes this is quite a painful or uncomfortable read because what the poem is being prescribed for is obviously something that is painful. It can be grief, it can be loss, it can be the death of a child, it can be a lack of faith, it can be racism, and each of these prescriptions try to pair a poem with that ailment or feeling or emotion or particular aspect of sorrow or sadness. And C. Card writes these really beautiful accompanying essays to each of the poems that he prescribes, and sometimes these essays are so full of depth and emotional intelligence, and they really choke me sometimes in a way that I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel quite so deeply. There's just some really beautiful meditations in here alongside the poems too, and that's why I think makes it such a rich and beautiful collection too. It's also Sighart's writing alongside the curated pieces that he's chosen. So that is a little reading roundup of how far I've got through my TBR, both in February and March. There were also a couple of books that I DNF'd this month that I forgot to mention. I will pop them on the screen right now because the titles elude me and I want to make sure they're right. Thank you for listening to my book ramble and my book wrap up and my reading wrap up even, and also my little vlog diary entry of how the last couple of months have gone. If you have made it this far, please let me know what your own reading goals are this year. Have you given yourself a book buying ban? Have you set any rules or tasks, or are you following any interesting reading challenges? If you haven't already, please do like, comment and subscribe. It really helps my little channel. And I hope you have a gorgeous week and happy reading.